Now, before we start, I'd like to give an announcement, but this is a big announcement.
It has been 1 year since I made this channel.
I just like to thank you guys all for the support, the actors especially. Thank you. From the moment I started off this history filming with the crappiest YouTuber on earth, to when I got my first Roblox Titanic video, to then when I got a really popular video somehow on my channel, I just like to thank you guys. It's been amazing. And I'd also like to thank Bertram, one of my actors, for helping me voice with this video. But yes, let's begin. After the construction of the RMS Olympic and RMS Titanic, it was clear there would be another ship. Encyclopedia Britannica. No, it wasn't. But it was a severely underrated Britannic. Or, Encyclopedia Britannic. Keel of the Britannic was laid on the 30th of November 1911 at the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast. The gantry slipway the Britannic was laid on was the same one previously occupied by the Olympic and the ship Arlanza, launched 7 days before. Due to improvements introduced as a consequence of the Titanic disaster, Britannic was not launched until 26th of February 1914, which was filmed along with the fitting of one of her funnels, most likely the fourth funnel. Several speeches were given in front of the press, and the dinner was organised in honour of the launching. Then, Britannic moved to dry dock, where fitting out began and her propellers were installed.
Reusing Olympic space saved the shipyard time and money by not clearing out a third ship similar in size to those used for Olympic and Titanic. In August 1914, before Britannic commenced transatlantic service between New York and Southampton, the shipyards with Admiralty contracts were given priority to use available raw materials. All civil contracts, including the Britannic, were slowed. The naval authorities requisitioned a large number of ships as armed merchant cruisers or for troop transport.
RMS Olympic returned to Belfast on the 3rd of November 1914, while work on Britannic continued slowly. The need for increased tonnage grew critical as naval operations extended to the east of the Mediterranean. In May 1915, Britannic completed mooring trials of her engines and was prepared for emergency entrance into service with a little of 4 weeks' notice. The same month also saw the first major loss of a civilian ocean liner, when Cunard Line's RMS Lusitania was torpedoed near the Irish coast by SMU-20. And just a little side note, submarine SMU-20 sunk a whopping 37 ships in World War I before grounding in 1920. The following month, the Admiralty decided to use frequently requisitioned passenger liners as troop transports in the Gallipoli campaign. The first to set sail were RMS Aquitania and RMS Mauretania. As the Gallipoli campaign went, there was need for hospital ships, and RMS Aquitania was diverted to a hospital ship duty. Britannic would also be converted to serve as a hospital ship, setting Britannic's fate.
Repainted white with large red crosses and a horizontal green stripe, she was renamed HMHS Britannic, standing for Her Majesty's Hospital Ship Britannic. She was placed under command of Captain Charles Bartlett. In her interior, 3,309 beds were installed. Operating rooms were installed, and the common areas of the upper decks were transformed into rooms for the wounded. The cabins of B deck were used to house doctors. All medical equipment were installed on the 12th of December 1915.
When declared fit for service on the 12th of December 1915 at Liverpool, Britannic was assigned a medical team consisting of 101 nurses, 336 non-commissioned officers, and 52 commissioned officers as well as a crew of 675 persons. As according to Wikipedia, you should say persons and not people. Interesting. On the 23rd of December, she left Liverpool to join the port of Madras in the Aegean Sea to bring back the sick and wounded soldiers. She joined with several ships on the same route, including the Mauretania, the Aquitania, and her sister ship, the Olympic. The 4 ships were later joined a little later by the Staten Dam. She made a stopover at Naples before continuing to Madras in order for a stock of coal to be replenished. After she returned, she spent 4 weeks as a floating hospital ship off the island of Wight. The third voyage for the Britannic was from the 20th of March to the 4th of April 1916. At the end of her military service on the 6th of June 1916, the Britannic returned to Belfast to undergo the necessary modifications for transforming her into a transatlantic passenger liner. The British government paid the White Star Line £75,000. The transformation took place for several months before the military came back in and said, "Right, Britannic, you're a hospital ship. No one cares about you being a passenger ship.
Bruh.
Alright, go in. Go, go, go." It wasn't like that. The Admiralty recalled the Britannic back into service as a hospital ship on the 26th of August 1916, and the ship returned to the Mediterranean Sea for a 4th voyage on the 24th of September that year. On the 29th of September, on her way to the Naples, she encountered a violent storm from which she was emerged unscathed. She left on October 9th for Southampton. Then she made a 5th trip, which was marked by a quarantining of the crew when the ship arrived at Madras because of the foodborne illness. Life aboard the ship followed a routine. At 6 o'clock, the patients were awakened and their premises were cleaned up. Breakfast was served at 6:30 a.m. Then the captain toured the ship for an inspection. Lunch was served at 12:30 p.m. and tea at 4:30 p.m. Patients were treated between meals and those who wished to go for a walk could do so. At 8:30 p.m. the patients went to bed and the captain made another inspection tour.
After completing 5 successful voyages to the Middle Eastern theater and back to the United Kingdom, transporting the sick and the wounded, the Britannic departed Southampton for Lemnos at the 14th 23 on November 12, 1916, her 6th voyage to the Mediterranean Sea. Britannic passed Gibraltar around midnight on the 15th of November and arrived at Naples on the morning of the 17th of November for her usual coaling and water refueling stop. This thus completed her first stage of her mission. The storm kept the ship in Naples until Sunday afternoon, when Captain Bartlett decided to take advantage of a brief break in the weather and continue. The seas rose again as Britannic left the port. By next morning, the storms had died and the ship passed into the Strait of Messina without problems. Cape Matapan rounded in the first hours of November 21st. By morning, Britannic was steaming at full speed into the Kia Channel between Cape Sioux Union and the island of Kia. There were 1,066 people on board, 673 crew, 35 Royal Army Medical Corps, 77 nurses, and the captain himself.
At 8:12 on the 21st of November 1916, a loud explosion shook the ship. The cause, whether it was a torpedo from an enemy submarine or a mine, was not apparent, but it was later revealed that the mines were planted in the Kia Channel on the 21st of October 1916 by SMU-73 under the command of Gustav Sieb. Doctors and nurses ran on deck alarmed, and Captain Bartlett ordered the watertight doors closed. Then he sent a distress signal and ordered the crew to prepare the lifeboats. An SOS signal was immediately sent out and was received by several other ships in the area, among them HMS Scourge and HMS Heroic. But Britannic heard nothing in reply. Unknown to either Bartlett or the ship's wireless operator, the force of the first explosion had caused the antenna wires slung between the ship's masts to snap. This meant that although the ship could still send out transmissions by radio, she could no longer receive them. On the bridge, Captain Bartlett was already considering efforts to save the ship. Only 2 minutes after the blast, boiler rooms 5 and 6 had to be evacuated. In about 10 minutes, Britannic was roughly in the same condition Titanic had been in 1 hour after the collision with the iceberg. 15 minutes after the ship was struck, the open portholes on the E-deck were underwater, with the water also entering the ship's aft section from the bulkhead between boiler rooms 4 and 5. Britannic quickly developed a serious list to starboard due to the weight of the water flooding into the starboard side, with the shores of the Greek island Kio to the right. Bartlett gave order to navigate the ship towards the island in an attempt to beach the vessel. While Bartlett continued his desperative maneuver, the ship listed more and more. The other crew members began to fear that the list would become too large, and so they decided to put the first lifeboat onto the water without waiting for the order to do so. Bartlett then decided to stop the ship and her engines. Before he could do so, 2 lifeboats were put into the water on the port side. The still turning, partly surfaced propeller sucked the 2 lifeboats in, mincing them, along with their passengers. This is where most of the deaths of the Britannic came from. At around 50 minutes after the collision, most of those on board had escaped in the 35 launched lifeboats. This is what Captain Bartlett said in his testimony.
I gave the order for all to leave the ship, passing word to the engine room and blowing the whistle for the last alarm, the abandoned ship signal. 2 long blasts of the whistle.
Britannic went under the waves at 9:07 a.m., 55 minutes after the explosion. Violet Jessup, who was one of the survivors of the Britannic's sister ship Titanic, and also had been on the RMS Olympic when she collided with HMS Hawke, described the last seconds of the ship. She dipped her head a little, then a little lower, and still lower. All the deck machinery fell into the sea like a child's toy. Then she took a fearful plunge. The first to arrive on the scene were some Greek fishermen, then the HMS Scourge and the HMS Heroic. Then the HMS Foxhound was there too. HMS Foresight also got there, but they were technically there to bury the bodies, or something. In total, 1,035 people survived the sinking. 30 men lost their lives in the disaster, but only 5 were buried. I'd like to say thank you to Bertram for helping with this video. And as I do, if you have been with my channel since the Carpathia video a couple months ago, I got very lazy in the end, so bear with me. But anyways guys, if you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe as it really helps support my channel. And if you have any recommendations for a future video, comment that down below. But yes, that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching.
In the summertime when the weather is high, you can stretch right up